Imagine paying hundreds of dollars for a front row seat. You've worn your Le Champion shirt. You've chanted his name for 20 years. You've defended this man in every internet argument, every locker room debate, every family dinner where someone dared say wrestling is fake. You are the fan. You are the reason he still has a career. And then Chris Jericho, the man himself, looks you dead in the eyes and tells you that you are the problem. That's not a hypothetical. That's not clickbait. That actually happened. And today on WrestleScope, we are going deep on it because what Jericho said, why he said it, and what it reveals about the hidden war between top-tier wrestlers and their own fan bases is something that nobody is talking about the right way. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see Chris Jericho and the entire wrestling industry in a completely different light. Welcome back to WrestleScope, where we don't just watch wrestling, we understand it. I'm your host, and today, we go to war. Let's set the scene. Chris Jericho, Y2J, Le Champion, the Ocho, a man with more nicknames than most wrestlers have title reigns, publicly called out his own fan base. And not in some vague, passive-aggressive social media post. No. Jericho came out swinging, with the kind of energy that reminded everyone why this man has been at the top of the card for over 3 decades. The criticism was pointed, it was specific, and depending on which side of the fence you're on, it was either the most courageous thing a veteran wrestler has ever said to his audience, or the most arrogant. Jericho made it clear that a segment of wrestling fans have crossed a line, that the entitlement, the online toxicity, the incessant demands, and the relentless negativity directed at performers, people who bleed, travel 300 days a year, and sacrifice their bodies, has gone too far. He didn't whisper it, he broadcasted it. And the internet exploded. Here's where it gets fascinating, and this is the unique angle I want to bring you today on WrestleScope, because nobody else is framing it this way. The reaction to Jericho's call-out split into 2 camps almost instantly. Camp 1, the defenders. These are the fans and plenty of fellow wrestlers who stood up and said, he's right. The toxicity in wrestling fandom has reached an all-time high. Death threats to wrestlers' families, harassment campaigns against performers for creative decisions they didn't even make, booing legends out of arenas just to feel powerful. These fans backed Jericho completely. Camp 2, the outraged. And listen, their anger isn't without basis. These are the people who said, hold on, we pay the bills. We buy the tickets, the merchandise, the pay-per-views, the streaming subscriptions. Without us, there is no Chris Jericho. Criticism is not a crime. Fans have a right to voice disappointment. Both camps think they're completely right. And here's the twist that WrestleScope is bringing you today. They both are. This isn't a black and white situation. This is a mirror being held up to an entire industry, and what it's reflecting is decades of a broken, codependent relationship between wrestlers and the people who love them. And Chris Jericho just threw a rock through that mirror. Now let's talk about the man himself for a second, because you cannot have this conversation without acknowledging the paradox that is Chris Jericho. This is a man who has reinvented himself more times than any other performer in wrestling history, from the arrogant Lionheart to Y2J, to the self-help guru villain, to Le Champion, to the absolute mad genius Ocho in AEW. Every single reinvention came because Jericho listened to feedback, sometimes subtle, sometimes screaming, from the fans. He is, in many ways, the ultimate student of the audience. So when this man, of all people, turns around and calls out that same audience, you have to ask yourself, what pushed him to this point? What did he see, hear, or experience that made Chris Jericho, a man who has always kept his pulse on pop culture and fan sentiment, decide that enough was enough? That question matters because Jericho doesn't make moves without calculation. He doesn't speak without intent. Every word that comes out of his mouth is part of a larger story he's telling. So is this a worked shoot? Is this a genuine outburst from a man who's had it? Or is this the greatest heat-generating move of 2024? A veteran manipulating the fan base into talking about him nonstop? Because guess what? Here we are, talking about him. Genius? Absolutely. Infuriating? Without question. Let's zoom out, because this Jericho moment is a symptom of something much larger. The relationship between professional wrestling fans and the performers they love has fundamentally changed in the social media era, and not always for the better. Once upon a time, the kayfabe wall kept everything clean. Wrestlers were larger-than-life characters. Fans were the audience. The fourth wall was sacred. There was a respectful distance that actually made the magic work.
Then came Twitter, then came Instagram, then came TikTok and YouTube and Reddit threads that go 47 pages deep on why a particular wrestler's push is ruining the company. Suddenly, fans had direct access to wrestlers, and wrestlers had direct access to criticism, raw, unfiltered, and often absolutely vicious. Now wrestlers see every insult, every "this guy is trash," every "why is this nobody getting a title shot," every cruel comment about someone's appearance, their promo ability, their spouse, their children. And it has changed the dynamic forever. The parasocial relationship, where fans feel like they personally know and own these performers, has created a toxic entitlement that no other entertainment industry experiences quite like wrestling does. Chris Jericho calling this out isn't just one man's frustration. It's a pressure valve releasing years of built-up tension across an entire industry. Here's where I'm going to say something that might make some of you uncomfortable, and I'm saying it with love as someone who is equally passionate about this business. Some of us, wrestling fans, need to look in the mirror. Passion is beautiful, criticism is healthy, debate is what makes this community vibrant. But there is a section of this fan base that has confused passion with ownership, that has convinced itself that being a fan entitles them to be cruel, that hiding behind a keyboard and destroying someone's reputation, mental health, or joy in their own career is somehow acceptable fan behavior. It is not. At the same time, and I will say this just as directly, performers who have spent decades building their careers on audience connection cannot simply tell those audiences to sit down and be quiet. You can't have it both ways. You can't demand fan investment when the house is full and the chants are hot, and then demand silence when the feedback turns critical. The truth, the real truth that Jericho's call-out exposes, is that this relationship needs to be renegotiated. Fans and performers both need to show up differently, with more humanity on both sides. So where does this go from here? For Jericho specifically, this kind of controversy has historically worked in his favor. Heat is heat. Whether you love him or hate him right now, you are watching him, you are talking about him, and a veteran who has mastered the art of staying relevant will use every single second of this attention. For the broader wrestling landscape, I believe this moment opens a necessary conversation that promotions like AEW and WWE are going to have to address head-on. Fan behavior at events, online harassment policies, the mental health of performers in the age of instant and unrelenting public feedback. And for us, the community, this is a moment of reckoning. Who do we want to be as fans? What version of this community are we building for the next generation of wrestling lovers who are just discovering this world for the first time? Because every time we let toxicity define this space, we lose someone. A young fan who gets bullied out, a performer who quietly steps away from social media, a wrestling show in a city that stops drawing because the crowd became known for cruelty rather than passion. Chris Jericho may have thrown a grenade into the room, but maybe, just maybe, it needed to blow. That's the WrestleScope take on Chris Jericho calling out the fans, and I want to hear from you. Do you think Jericho was completely right? Was he out of line? Or is the truth somewhere in the messy, complicated middle? Drop your take in the comments right now. I am reading every single one, and I will be responding. This is exactly the kind of conversation this community needs to have out loud. If this video made you think, if it fired you up, if it made you see this story differently, hit that like button. It takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps this channel bring you more of the content you love. And if you're not subscribed to WrestleScope yet, what are you doing? Smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown, a deep dive, or a hot take that the rest of the wrestling internet is too scared to give you. We ride together on WrestleScope. I'll see you in the next one.